Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. Welcome. Another piece of amazing Gemara. We are in Bava Metzia, Sadi Gimel Amud Aleph, but right now we're still in Sadi Beis Amud Beis, a few lines before the bottom of the page. Veha Tana Boishia. We're basically 3 lines from the bottom of the narrow lines. If you count from the narrow lines, you see the third line from the bottom of the narrow lines. Veha Tana Boishia. The line ends with the word Hoishia. So what have we been speaking about today? And first of all, welcome to everybody here, everyone in Torah Anytime and in our YouTube channel. We are still discussing, and today will probably be the last day of the rather long sugya of a poel oichel. A poel, a worker, is allowed to eat while he is picking the fruit in the field or doing other work, such as carrying, schlepping, within limits, within reason. The person who is the picker, the poel, the worker, is allowed to eat while he is working. So we saw a brisa, quotes from a Mishnah, which we're now going to show a contradicting brisa to. We're about to see the contradiction. So I'll summarize to you now what we saw yesterday from the Mishnah. Basically, what we saw was the following. When a person, a poel, is a big macher, he's a poel who comes to the field, but at the same time, he has his own bunch of slaves, and he also avadim, and he also has lahavdil, his wife and children, who come and help him picking. So now, they, as poelim, his wife, his children, and on a different level is avadim, they are all entitled to eat because they're actually workers. He's the middleman. He's the head of the family who brought them along, and maybe he cashes the money, maybe he gives them some of the money, all the money. That actually is not even relevant. The point is, can the person say, I am telling you, the person meaning the poel, the worker. Remember, I'd call him the middle person. He's working for the field owner, but he himself owns avadim and he's the head of the family. So now the question is as follows. Can he actually tell the Baal Bayis, the owner of the field, instead of getting fruit, I'd like to get money, cash, instead of the fruit? Is that a possible thing for himself? And also for his family. Generally speaking, we saw that it depends. If the children and his wife are above bar bas mitzvah the gdolim, and they stood there quietly when daddy said, no fruit, please. We'd like to, in advance, exchange our food for money. And teenager boy, teenage girl, and mommy said, they didn't say anything. They did not protest. They have the right to protest. He doesn't own them. And yet they did not protest. That is to show that they agree. And they're mevater, the mochel on the right to eat. Instead, they want cash, which will go to their own pocket, to the family, different opinions. It actually doesn't make such a difference. But she'ein ken, when it comes to, and the same goes to his avodim above bar mitzvah, we'll discuss it later. People below bar mitzvah, people who are ktanim, they do not have the ability to be moichel. A cotton lav bar mechila. A cotton below bar bat mitzvah, I'm telling you a rule now. There's a rule that applies all over Shas. 1 second, please. Because a cotton doesn't have the right to do transactions, no responsibility, no emotional maturity. A cotton, when he says, okay, I'm giving in, I'm giving up, I'm mevater, I'm okay with whatever daddy says, it's not really true because he doesn't have the ability to be mevater. Therefore, funnily enough, the young children here get more rights. And if daddy said, when he comes with his young shnuklalach, below bar mitzvah to the field and they work very nicely, and the father said to the owner of the field, that's okay, my little ones don't need to have any strawberries, tomatoes, potatoes, potatoes doesn't not shaykh, I mean anything edible, cucumbers. No, you cannot say that. Even if they sit there smiling sheepishly, it doesn't mean that they really agree because Ktanim don't have the ability to be moichel. That is what we said up until now, and we're going to discuss all that again in the prism of the Bryce of Rabbi Shia. Now the Gemara is going to show a contradictory statement. We saw a Mishnah, now we're going to see a Brisa that in one point disagrees with the Mishnah. And I told you yesterday the rule. Who's Rabbi Shia? Rabbi Shia is the master of the Brisas. Rabbi Shia and Rabbi Chia, they were, the people are between the Brisa, between the Mishnah time and the Gemara time. Right? Rabbi Chia was the uncle of who? Rav. Rabbi Chia was the uncle of Rav, 100%, and he was a friend of Rebbe. The Kitzer, these people of that era, they're the people who wrote and brought down the Brisas. Here comes the Brisa, but no other than Rabbi Shia. Let's see the whole story again. We're right before the end of the narrow lines. Tzadi Beis Amud Beis. First of all, that's a chiddush. A person may tell the landowner, listen, mister, instead of getting fruit, I'm interested in getting cash, and that's okay. Or by the way, some achronim learned the other way. I investigated yesterday. Sometimes the owner says that to the poel. The owner says, listen, do you mind switching? In other words, I don't like it. You eat every fifth pineapple. It's too much for me. Please don't eat. And instead, I will actually pay you cash. Okay, why not? I prefer cash. I can pay my water bill rather than eating one more pineapple. Yeah, it's a win-win situation. Now, even if one side, let's say one side doesn't agree, the other side can tell him that. Why? Why is that? Well, let's see. If you have to remember the chakira, which we have here all along, there's one chakira. What's the chakira? How do we define the what? His rights to eat. Are these financial rights? Or this is just a Kodesh Baruch giving him a gift like a matnas anim, like charity, like tzedakah, straight into his mouth, without having any rights over it? Remember, that's a question? Oh, so now I'm pausing for a minute and looking at the following, and I thought that's what you asked yesterday. Atzma is a chiddush. A person can say, if the person has rights, he can say, listen, I have rights over the fruit, I can transfer it into money. I have a ticket, I have a voucher. I change that from fruit to money, no problem. Very nice. What about if it's straight to his mouth? Even then, the person can actually say, yes, at the end of the day, I'm going to get some fruit into my hands. The cherries, the berries, whatever I'm going to get will be mine. I'm telling you now, let's do a swap, a deal. And I'm selling it to the Baal Habais for money. And even according to this side, it's possible. So if it's just between the Baal Habais and the poel, whichever way you look at it, it's their own business. He can either sell a voucher or sell the actual fruit once it's in his hand and say, every fruit that hits my hand, let's say every fifth, you know that's my minag, every seventh berry I pop into my mouth, that's what I do. I'm telling you now, we're telling each other, once the berry's in my hand, everyone agrees belongs to me, right? Mimele, instead of that, let's make a cheshbon and you pay, and let's say at the end of the day, I picked 49 berries, so now there are 7 berries I would have eaten. I'm selling you those 7 berries for money. That's okay. That's not a question. Everyone agrees to that. Both tzedadim. However, what about other people? Validei ishtoi. Also, let's say it's the wife. His wife is next to him. They don't even have kids. The kids are home. The kids are in school. His wife is picking right next to him. And he says next to his wife while she is within earshot, in her presence, listen, Mr. Baal Habais, I'm the poel. This is my wife, Sandy. Yeah, and now his wife, she's picking also. And I'm telling you, please don't let her eat. Let her, instead of eating, give her money or give us money. If she didn't say anything, she didn't protest, and women can protest. She's an adult, and she did. You don't believe that, yeah? And she did not protest. That shows haskama. She's an adult. It's a vitor. You thought I was joking yesterday. The Achronim say if his wife is below bas mitzvah, then it's a different story. Yeah, in theory, he can be married to Rivka Imenu. So that's a different story. Yeah, that's not the story here. Now, aval loyalidei behemtoi. Yeah, you brought Coco, the chimpanzee, to pick together with you or schlep with you, or you brought your donkey. The Paul brought his own donkey to schlep the food. Then, and he says, no. You see my donkey, do the donkey? No, excuse me. He's not going to eat. He's going to get cash, or I will get cash because I'm his owner, instead of him eating. Now you cannot do. Why? Because you can't muzzle him. Physically, it's usher. As opposed to a human being where it's not a love, it's only an assay. But an animal, what is it? It's a love. You just can't muzzle a behemoth while it's eating. Even if you have the most amazing whatever, good ideas, good financial ideas, does make a difference. Next group, Balidei B'noi B'to Gdoilim. Oh, what about B'noi B'to Gdoilim? Again, you have kids above bar mitzvah, either 14 or 24, and they are big kids, and they are kids who are listening to the father talking, and father is saying, it's okay. Instead of them eating the food, give cash to me or to them or to us, and they didn't protest. If they didn't protest, a woman under the chuppah doesn't say anything, according to real Judaism. If she's there receiving the ring with a big smile or with that means she agrees. Yes, why didn't you say anything? Same thing over here. If you agree to the exchange daddy is doing, well, don't say you're intimidated. You're big kids. You didn't say anything. You're mevater. And big children can be mevater. Aval lo yelidei bno bitoy ktanim. Oh, however, younger children that are below bar bat bash, then what? Bno bitoy ktanim, first wide line. They don't have mechila just because 6 years old, 7 years old, Shmuli and Moshe and Ruti, they were standing there while Daddy was saying they're not going to eat. Instead of their food, they're going to get what? They'll get cash, which of course the father will get, not them. The fact they didn't say anything doesn't mean anything because they are not really mochel. Even though we interpret usually silence as shtika, as mechila, there is no mechila by them, as Rabbi Simkin reminded us that Ktanim don't have das, don't have responsibility, they don't have mechila. Now the third group, the avodim. No translation to English to that word. The koitzet alidei avdoi. These avodim knainim, not ivrim, of course. Eved ivri is a big boss. Eved ivri is not in the list, by the way. The Rishonim say because obviously, yeah, Eved ivri is a ganz. He has many rights. Yeah, so of course that he's in a different level. Alidei avdov shivchos knainim. Ben gdoilim uben ktanim it can be koitzet, which means, and here comes the big news. Here comes big news. A person has avadim gdoilim. The person has an eved or a shifcha that are 30, 35, or 14. They are, but the age of, I shouldn't say age of consent, whatever, age of knowledge and ability to be mevater, the ability to give in and have their das, they know they're doing. Now that eved v'shifcha, let's open the two boxes in our mind because now it makes a difference. The Eved v'Shifcha are standing there, 6 o'clock in the morning. All the agreements are being spoken about. Mr. Owner of the avadim, who is the worker in the field, the middle guy, is below him and above them. He says, here are my nice workers, so nice and able. They'll pick together with me or without me even. And what? And really, they don't have to eat. Instead of that, they will get the cash. So now, if we say, first of all, the general idea is they're mevater, they're moichel, because they're big enough, they can be moichel their own achila. Now, how do you view that? Whichever way you view that is good. If you say that the poel, which by the way is him, who's the owner of those people? It's the first time we see somebody owning another one. Who owns them? Him. He's the poel. So if we say that, and this is a point I tried to make yesterday, and that's the main point of the sugya, by the way. We're now hitting the main point. Now comes deeper lomdus. I am the owner of the financial rights, according to the first side, and they're the ones physically picking, right? But I'm the owner over what? Over the rights to eat. That's first side, right? I own the rights to eat, and therefore what? They're picking. I own the rights, not them. They're not free people, and therefore I don't care what they say. I frankly don't care whether they agree or not. However, what would you say if it's not financial rights, but it's a matono straight from Hashem to the mouth of the physical actual worker? Then the Adon is out of the equation because he owns them and their money, but Lamaisa, he's not them themselves. He doesn't have their DNA, he doesn't have their eyes, right? They are, if it's mamash a physical thing like bris milah, you do to a person, you can't do bris milah or tefillin to another person, right? It has to be physically on the person. Same thing, if achila is something done right to them, the rights, then he has no business to speak on their behalf. Nachon. That's why we say that because about bar mitzvah, they're mevater. We assume that those avodim know what's better for the odon, what's better for them. Maybe they want to find grace in his eyes. The fact that they kept quiet is assumed to be what? Their consent. Yes, they have the rights, according to the second side. They gave in, they gave up the rights, they waived the rights, and say, okay, the odon will get money instead of us getting food. However, the second wide line, ubein ktanim, that's a contradiction. Up until now, wife, children, big, small, avodim, big avodim, all was good. Here comes the one point where we have a contradiction, a stira, between the Mishnah and the Brisa. The Mishnah said that ktanim, that are avodim, just like little children, little avodim are little. And therefore their mechila is not a mechila, and they'll keep munching. Funnily enough, because they're small avodim, the lowest echelon in the family, they're so low, they have no das. So even though the master said that he should not eat cherries but get money, he has no right to do that, not because they have rights, because they don't have mechila. And here we say that there is koitzitz. Here in the Brisa of Rabbi Chia, we say that you can. We say just the other way around. We say that really those ktanim if the Odon really said, I will get money and they will not get to eat, he's right. They will not get their food and he will get the money. So we see a stira regarding avadim ktanim. Out of all the cases, there's one case, avadim and ktanim. Yeah, the chart is in your mind. We have a different chart today. Avadim that are ktanim are either the master can do exchange on their behalf or he cannot. It's a stira. What's going on? My love must be, what's my love? Must be that, must, surely you're saying, what's idi ve'idi? Both this and that. Very good. Idi ve'idi, both Mishnah and Brisa. B'malalen mizoinos. Oh, we forgot that point. What's malalen mizoinos? To speak in a very balbatish way, a good master, a good odon, is one who feeds his avadim. If you don't feed your avadim, you have no rights over their money. We assume that because you generally feed those ktanim, don't have such rachmanus on them. Are you from the Avodim Rights Society? Are you from Abraham Lincoln? No. They're not eating the chairs now. At home, they have a very nice hot meal. They had a nice breakfast, my Avodim. They'll have a nice dinner. In other words, if I'm an Odon with Malam Ezoinois, then I also have the financial rights over my Avodim. So, l'choira, I should be able to stop them and decide for them. So what's the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa? This is what the Mishnah and the Brisa are arguing about. Very good. Exactly the 2 points which for days and days we're trying to figure out. Maybe that's the bone of contention. That's a machlokes. Meaning, let me explain. If we say that the owner, that any poel, which in this case, who is the poel? The master of the avodim, right? If he owns financial rights over the food, what do we say today? It's transferable, he has rights, it's rights. Mimel, it's financial rights that eventually translate into fruit. Rights, financial rights. I'm a good odin, I feed my avodim, they're my avodim. I have the rights over their finances, not them. So I frankly don't care. Yeah, frankly, my dear, I don't care. Yeah, if they agree or disagree. I'm their owner, and this is financial ownership and financial rights. So I don't care what they say, and that's what the Brisa thought. The Brisa says, yes, it can be koitzets, whether they like it or not. Mashenken, our Mishnah thought Mishal Shamayim oichel. The Mishnah says, no. You know which poel gets the food? Whoever actually picks with his own hands gets the rights to actually eat. It's not financial rights, it's mamish feeding into his mouth. If so, who are the owners of that food? The ktanim. It can be an Eved Koton, 3 years old, with no rights whatsoever. Alamaisa, he's the one who's eating. And since he's a Koton, as opposed to his big brother, he cannot be Mevater. So therefore, it's not about financial rights. We know that the owner is the financial owner of them, their master. But it's not about financial rights. Just because, I have financial rights, so my putting on tefillin will be moitzi the Eved. Shtiyot. Eved doesn't put on tefillin. Okay, I'm sorry. Not a good example. Whatever. Let's say he would, yeah? It doesn't make a difference, yeah? It's a mitzvah shebegufa, it's a zach behim. The big one, we say, was mevater, but this one cannot be mevater, the small one. Mimela, the Adon, cannot say about the little one that let him not eat, but instead we should get cash. That's what we want to say. Secret, with that, we're going to stay at the very end of the sugya. However, the Mishnah, the Gemara is going to have a lot of twists and turns, trying to understand the Machlokes Mishnah and the Brisa differently. But this is the basic idea to understand the Mishnah and the Brisa. The question really is the core question. Do we say that the poel, which is in this case, the poel happens to be an owner of avadim, do we say that he owns the rights or he just gets to eat, cup in hand like an oni? That's the same question again and again and again. The Gemara is now trying to, before we continue, I'll give you a little bit of room for questions now. Very good. Answers the Gemara. The Gemara is not answering, the Gemara is now rejecting that understanding. That's not necessarily true. The kula alma mishalo yoichel. One could understand, to topple everything we said, we could say both Mishnah and Brisa believe that really mishalo yoichel, meaning what? Every poel, including a poel who owns avodim, has mishaloi. It's his own rights, financial rights. It's a financial thing. It's really a bank account business. So how can the Mishnah and Brisa contradict? What do they argue about? V'lo kasha, 3 lines from the bottom of the page. V'lo kasha, it's not difficult. Kan b'she'en malalen mizoinos. The Mishnah talks about I'm saying it not in a good way, it's a bad guy, which means the master who who is their master, doesn't feed them. His master doesn't feed them. He doesn't feed the small avadim. If you don't feed your avadim, no pain, no gain. It's supposed to come first. No pain, no gain. In other words, you don't feed them, you don't get the financial rights. That's why really you have financial rights. But those avadim, yeah, you can't control their eating things because you don't give them to eat, right? And you can't do that. That's why they have the right to protest. Yeah, and even if they're not protesting, really they are, but they're ktanim. They don't express there's no mechila. Ubraisa ben Walel and Mezainas. Very good. The Braisa says that what they have no say in it, and he can exchange their food into the money. Halal and Mezainas. What does that mean? Yes, I'm a regular, good, okay, functional master. I feed my avodim. In return, I own the rights over food and lodging and money and everything. And therefore, yes, I am to decide. I am the one with the financial rights, Klape, the owner of the field. I have financial rights over my avodim because I jolly well feed them. Very good. What they say, I don't care what they say. Very good. Frank the Gemara, wait a minute. B'may ukimta. How did you now explain? What did you just say? What's ukimta? How did you make it stand? How did you explain now the Mishnah and the Brisa? What was your point? B'malel and mizoinos. You're telling me now, yeah, that in the case of the children who cannot protest in the Brisa, which children? The avodim children cannot protest because he's feeding them nice and good, feeding them well, and therefore their food rights, the food issues belong to him, financial, and he has the financial rights over the field. He has a right to stop them from eating. If so, let's now go to a different demographic. We had a lot of groups in the Mishnah, right? Big kids, small kids. If so, Ktanim Nami, his own young children. You tell me, rabbis, who is in charge of the children below bar mitzvah, in charge of their financial rights, and he doesn't own them like avodim, but he owns their money and he owns all the financial things. Young kids below bar mitzvah, they don't work, they sit at home, they go to school hopefully when it's not been as money. And what? And who feeds them? Who dresses them, clothes them? Me. And therefore, there are actually many, many questions here. But generally speaking, a cotton below bar mitzvah, all his money belongs to the father. So why do you say, but the ktanim, we say, oh, they're not mevater. They're not really giving up. I'm talking not about avodim, the person's own children. Ktanim nami, no kutzlehu. Excuse me. The ktanim, why can't the father say, I am the owner of my children below barbat, because I'm the owner of the financial businesses. And since we say mishaloi, right? As a poel, I have financial rights when I stand vis-a-vis the field owner. And vis-a-vis my eved or my child, I'm in charge of my child's finances. No, he doesn't have his own bank account. And the aveda belongs to me. By a girl even more. I say a dime, you can marry her off. So why do you say that the ktanim can protest? And even if they didn't protest, they're really protesting. Which protest you're talking about? They're just like avodim. And says the Gemara, no. The difference between avodim ktanim and one's own children is one. Tsaraihu. What's tsaraihu? Their own physical discomfort. Tsaraihu debnoi ubito yaktanim lo izachile rachmono. Wow. In other words, yeah, I don't want to get too mushy and too schmaltzy over here, but just imagine yourself that person bringing to the field his young children or the young avodim, and they are hungry. And hunger is not a pleasant feeling, right? Now, when it comes to the young children, it's true that the financial rights of the children are non-existent. He feeds them nicely. That's what we said. He feeds everyone nicely. He's okay. He's a good father. He even plays with them chess and lets them use the computer a little bit. Actually, I don't know if that's good. Yeah. And what? He's a good guy, but the Ktanim are hungry. You have rights over the financial things. You don't have rights over their hunger. You have no right as a father to make your children below bar mitzvah hungry. So when you talk to Mr. Big Boss, the owner of the plantation, and you tell him, these are my little kinderlach, Shmulish, Princey, and Bailey, and they are all going to work very nicely, don't let them eat, but rather give me the money, you cannot do that, because financially, you can play your games, you can have the cards in your hands. But Lamaisa, they're hungry. Over their physical discomfort, you're not the owner. Bashenkin by avadim, not politically correct, by avadim you do. Eved Knaini, his body is owned by the owner. The only case in the Torah when a person owns another person, and that is by Eved Knaini. He also, the Rambam says, you're not allowed to hit him too much and be nice to him. And he also has rights. Right, if you hit him, he goes l'chofshi when it's shen v'ayin. But lamaisa, the business is what? The ikar is that by the avodim ktanim, he has all the rights over them, both financial and physical. So if he's the owner of the rights to eat, he's the owner of the rights to eat completely vis-a-vis the avadim, and he can say the avadim will not eat, they'll eat at home later, and instead give me money instead. That's what we're trying to say. Again, we don't know if that's lefi this tzad. We didn't yet decide the whole business. Lefi this tzad, that's what we're holding. Yeah. Frag the Gemara. So wait a minute. Let's recap. What did we say? What's the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa? One difference. Is he a good guy or a bad guy? In other words, we say what? That if he's a master who feeds them, you feed, yes, gain, yes, pain, yes, gain. You feed them nicely, you feed them okay, nice, robust avadim, you have the rights over the finances, and therefore, whether they like it or not, you can decide that the avadim ktanim's food, will go to be exchanged into money. If you don't feed them, no pain, no gain. You don't have the rights over their money, and if the avadim are not happy with that, and ktanim are assumed not to be happy with that exchange, it can't be moichel, then you have no right to change the food into money. That was a summary. Zog the Gemara, we'll summarize even more later, but this is a summary of the last Nekuda. Frag the Gemara, how did you explain the Mishnah? Right? The Mishnah said, why did the Mishnah say that they can protest, or we viewed it as protest and you cannot change? Because you are not feeding them. You're not feeding them? You're not feeding them, you have no right for their financial business. Okay. Frag the Gemara, Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph. That is okay. Hanicha, what's Hanicha? That is okay. That is understandable. That is fine. Leman de Omar. It's actually machlokes in Gittin, and in many places there is an opinion that says, "Ein harav yochol omer le'eved aseh imi ve'ini zancho." Let me translate. A rav doesn't mean a rabbi, not an Orthodox rabbi. Rav means a master. A master is not allowed to tell an eved, "Aseh imi," you work with me, ve'ini zancha, and it will not be zan. What's hazan? Hazan is a call. You say it every Birkas Hamazon, right? Hazan is a call. That's the first bracha. Hazan is a call, the one who sustains, nourishes, feeds. Gives food. Keep it simple. The one who feeds. So the master cannot tell an eved, it's a win-lose situation. You work with me like an eved, and I will not feed you. You manage. Go collect the food in the garbage in the street, like in third world countries, and unfortunately some other countries, people get, you find yourself, not my problem. If we say that this is not doable, and this is not humane, and this is not good, shapir, then good. Then everything you set up makes sense. That's a difference between avodim that can protest and cannot protest, right? If he's a good odoin, then they can say, then he owns them, and they cannot protest. If he doesn't feed them, then they can protest. Very good. But you know what? There is an opinion that says otherwise. There is another opinion that says, let me surprise you. Yochol. There's an opinion in Gittin who argues on that premise we just made. There is an opinion that says, Yochol Rav Lomer Le'eved the same Yiveni Zoncho. Yes, there is an opinion, and it looks like this is halacha even. A person may tell an Eved, you work with me as much as you can. You have 5 minutes a day where I'm going to shluf half an hour where you're not necessary. Go manage yourself. Go get food somehow, somewhere, somewhat. It's not my responsibility. According to that, Michael Maimer, what are you going to say? Our entire castle is now a sand castle. Because what did we base ourselves on? The difference between rights and the Mishnah. We base ourselves on the assumption that an Odon has to feed his avodim, and if he doesn't feed them, he has no rights over them. And then the ball went rolling. But it may not be true. No, there is an opinion that says no. Whether you feed them or not, you have rights over the Eved. So what's the difference between rights and the Mishnah, right? What's the difference between the rights and the Mishnah? Because I don't care whether Odin feeds or doesn't feed. He's anyway the financial owner of the Avadim Ktanim, owning their body and their money. So I'm going to explain. Give me one good reason why they can't protest. Why should they protest? Who cares about them? Ella must be Idi ve'idi b'she'ein malalen mezoinois. Must be now that what? Really, he's not feeding them. In both cases, Mishnah and the Brisa, bad guy, doesn't feed them. Pligi, you know it's machlokes Mishnah and the Brisa? The same machlokes from a different direction. The Malsover Yochol, the Malsover En Yochol. We're talking in both Mishnah and the Brisa about just the other way around. Not both of them are talking about a guy who does feed. Both Mishnah and Brisa talk about a guy, an Odon, a master who does not feed. And the question is the moral halachic question. Is that okay or not? Meaning, if you say Yochol, if you say the guy doesn't feed his avodim and he's still okay with that, so he owns them, The little Eved doesn't want, who cares? Umar Savar Ein Yochol, the one who says that really they can protest, which is what? Which is the Mishnah. The Mishnah said the little avadim will keep eating the strawberries, even if the big master doesn't want, they'll eat, and nobody cares, and they have the rights. That is why, because you're not feeding them, you have no rights over them, no pain, no gain. Same thing, just the other way around. So the Gemara, okay, that's doable, that's passable. But there, something in the hierarchy of the Gemara doesn't make sense. Why? We know that usually Rabbi Yochanan and most other opinions, look at something funny that comes out here. Rabbi Yochanan, he's the one, we didn't mention him yet, now we just mention opinions. There's an opinion that says that an Odoin has to feed his avadim, and an opinion says that he doesn't. Who are those opinions? Yeah, can they unmask themselves? Rabbi Yochanan, he's the one, the Omar, Yochol Harav. Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that a master can tell the Eved, the slave, the Eved, you work, and I'm not going to feed you. What comes out? Something very funny. Kilu. Shavik masnisin v'ovid kebraisa. Comes out that Rabbi Yochanan, what Shavik, left. He left behind the Mishnah, the Ovid kebraisa. He follows the Braisa. Who's better, Mishnah or Braisa? Better. Mishnah. So Rabbi Yochanan, the big master, the master of all Talmud Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yochanan, you actually are now, if we make all this cheshbon, comes out Rabbi Yochanan, follows the opinion of a Braisa, because the Braisa is the one that said that what the avadim cannot protest, and it's my right to change the food into money. That follows Rabbi Yochanan, right? That an Adon can do whatever he wants. Not good. Rabbi Yochanan following a Braisa against the Mishnah, Ela must be what? Now, second to last attempt. Now, therefore, we're still stuck. What are we stuck with? How do you understand? Let's recap, let's regroup. What is the question we're trying to figure out? Estira, everything else works very nicely except for one demographic, one group over here, the avadim ktanim. The Mishnah says that the avadim ktanim may keep eating. You're not allowed to, as a master, you're not allowed to exchange the rights to eat into cash, right? And the Braisa says that you may, yes, you have the right to do that. What's the difference? What's the point of machloikis? Ela. The kula alma mishal shamayim roichel. Everyone agrees it's mishal shamayim, meaning the eved or any other poel, it's something in his body. Hashem gave him the right to eat, and it's nobody's business. It's not financial rights. It's a tzedakah given to the one physically working. I veloy matzi koitzitz, and everyone agrees that he's not allowed to be koitzitz, meaning the odoin may not switch the food of the eved into what? Into cash. Why? Because you have an eved here below bar mitzvah, yeah? And Mishel Shammai means that it's his food. You want to take his food, change into money? You cannot do that. Why? Because you are actually dealing with a person who has no mechila. There's no mechila here. But the Braisa says koitzitz. The Braisa says you are allowed to be koitzitz. So the Gemara, no, you misunderstood the word koitzitz. You thought koitzitz means to switch money for food, food for money. No. Umay koitzitz domer Rabbi Yoshia. You know the Braisa meant what it says koitzitz or Rabbi Yoshia? Mizoinos. Mizoinos means as follows. They made an agreement. By the way, I'm not sure who initiated the agreement. The agreement was as follows. The agreement was, let's say, I have an idea. The master, which master? The master of the avodim, who himself is a worker for who? For Mr. Plantation owner, comes in the morning, knocks on the office door, nice air-conditioned house at the end of the plantation, and comes and he says, you know what, here are my little avodim, very capable, very nice, they can pick all day long, and I'm so humane, nobody's changing their food, but you know what I want to do with you? Please give them a good hearty meal, or maybe the other way around. I'm not sure we're starting, but Lamai said, the Odon, the two masters between them decide what? Give those little avodim a good meal before their workday, whatever they want, 10 types of cereals, ice cream, whatever they can fantasize about, they'll be so nice and robust from the ice cream, and now they will not even look at the strawberries already. We tell them you had a very, very good meal, up to here, you're not going to be interested in the food. That you can do. Okay, fine, that you can do. That's what the Braisa said, that's all. It's just a side thing. Correct the Gemara, wait a second, if so, that's too good to be truth. The kavose, what's kavose? The equivalent of that, gabe behemtoi, What do we say about an animal? Teven no kutzla. In other words, the Gemara is now asking a question. It's beautiful. The Gemara calculates everything. Unbelievable. The Gemara says, wait a second. If you want to tell me that the brisa ktsitza just doesn't mean switching food into money, just means preempting and preventing eating through feeding the people before, yeah, somebody there, I don't know who's the one who's feeding, somebody's going to feed the wife, the children, the avadim, the ra. We'll have a very good meal on the cheshbon of the balabais. Balabais will feed us, and in return, we'll keep our mouth shut the whole time. Okay. If so, if you remember, one of the items mentioned in the Mishnah and the Brisa was a behema. And we said, behema, you can't, animals' rights, you can't be koitzitz the behema. Wrong. Remember what we saw a few days ago? We said that you are allowed to put a lot of amir. You can give cheap but good, a lot of good food to the animal before it comes to thresh your fancy quinoa, I don't know, Chinese style fancy food. Yeah, you cannot. I'm allowed to bring the animal to the threshold open mouth, but with a full stomach, it's not going to look at food. So why did he say cannot do that in the brisa? If you tell me lokutz means to prevent it to eat right from the start, so the same word lokutz applies across the board. Tanim, doidim, wife, women, children, shviger, neighbor, and behema. So why did he say by the behema you cannot do that? You are allowed to do that by behema. Yes, you're allowed to prevent the behema from eating in a sly, smart way by feeding it very much extra before it comes to thresh. What's the problem? Ella, back to square one. Yeah. We're in the last line of the sugya. The hakamiflagi must be mechlokes the Mishnah and the Brisa whether avadim ktanim can be switched or cannot be switched the food. And by the way, we gave up on this pshat. Koitzitz does mean to pre-feed. Doesn't mean that. It can't mean that because by animal it's good. So back to square one. Koitzitz means switching food for money. Can you or can you not when it comes to an eved and the eved has no mechila? That's the difference. That's the difference. Let's summarize again. This is the end of not the entire sugya of eating or feeding that almost, we have now concluded without a conclusion the chakira, the lomdish chakira, which we had all the time. A few days. What was the question? When a poel gets to eat, does he have financial rights? I'm a balabos. When I'm getting the food at the end of the horizon, every fifth cherry will be mine. These are a voucher. You get every fifth cherry, money. And therefore, of course, I can change it. And I can also change it from a little eved. He doesn't want it. I feed him nicely. According to Rabbi Yochanan, I don't even have to feed him. And I still have financial rights over him. If every fifth cherry that I pick in the field is mine, is what? Is a financial thing? I'm sorry. That eved, I know he doesn't like it, but tough. I need the money and I know what's going on. I'm the big boy in the story. And since I have financial rights over the food and financial rights over the eved, I will decide, and not him, whether he likes it or not. However, if you say like the Brisa, what did the Brisa say? The Eved may protest, even if it's not protesting vociferously. If the Eved, Kotan, is not happy, and we assume he's not happy, he can't touch his food. Why? Because that side believes Mishel Shamayim Oichel. What's Mishel Shamayim? Not financial rights. Whoever gets to pick the fruit has the right to be fed. That's it. Just like the Eved has his own stomach. From the fruit. And since the little eved is not, as opposed to most other people in the equation, the big avadim, the wife, the big children, the young avadim and young children, both free people and avadim are equalized. If they're below bar mitzvah and they're standing sheepishly while father is talking above their head, saying their food will not be their food but my money, he has no right to do that because they, as actual workers, physical workers, they're the ones getting to the mouth. What do you want? And therefore, he cannot change that into food. What's the halacha like? Nothing. I mean, in the Mishnah, it doesn't even say the word teku. Nothing. Into oblivion. Aloha, I saw in Shulchan Aruch. I saw the Shulchan Aruch yesterday, and I saw it again. I won't quote it, okay? Lamai said, the aloha is ledidei. And the winner is ledidei, which means it's not financial rights. It's something that goes physically straight into the hands, mouth, don't forget a bracha, and the tummy of the person, of the worker himself, and therefore the master may not decide over his slaves, the ktanim, unless they're gdolim and they agree. And also, it's non-transferable. So sorry, non-transferable. Don't try and play shtick. Remember the first story? Different. The first story was the poel is there, his wife next to him, not working, but she's next to him in the field, and he says, every fifth cherry which I would eat, she would eat instead of me. What a good husband, Korban, yeah. And therefore, you cannot do that, la halacha. You cannot do that. Why? Because it's yours to eat. It's not yours to give. You don't have it financially as financial entity. It's only yours to eat. According to Rashi, however, once it's in your hands, then you can give it to her. According to Tosfos, you can't give it bichlal. Lefi Rashi, you can't pre-arrange the whole business once it's in your hand. And instead of popping it here, I'll give it to my wife. That is only Rashi. It's not Laloch as far as I know. Whoa, so that's the end of this sugya, and we have to continue. I'll give you a little bit of time for questions if you have. If not, okay. Yeah. This Mishnah we're about to see now, you are going to know this Mishnah before it even started. This 90% of this Mishnah was already quoted in relation to the previous sugya. Yeah, because the previous sugya was about the Chakira, whether it's his or not his. This Mishnah we're going to see now, most of it was already explained before. Why did we mention it before? Because in the context of the previous sugya. A person may exchange his rights over the fruit into money by himself for his own work. So too by his older children above bar mitzvah, because if they stood silently while daddy was saying, my big kids, 15, 16 years old, believe me, they know how to open their mouth, and they kept quiet when daddy was saying, switch, they're not eating but getting money. By the way, they could get the money too. And they agreed. It shows that they agreed. Even Eved v'Shivcha have the right to protest, and if they don't, that means they agreed. Women very, very seldomly disagree with the husband. Happens once in 10 million people. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know. I've heard once, in South Japan. No? Yeah, and what? An Isha may disagree. And if she kept quiet, we assume she agrees for the exchange of fruit to money. If they shesh ben das, they have das. Yeah, as you said, Rav Simkin, das means das is mechila. They have knowledge, they have the mental capacity to agree or disagree. So they agreed. What do they want? Aval, however, eino koitzitz, you may not do that switch of fruit into cash, alidei b'noi bito yaktanim, v'loi alidei avdav shivchos yaktanim, or young children, either his own little prince and princess, or the avadim of Eved v'Shivcha, male, female, free or Eved, none of them, all of them, you cannot decide on their behalf that they are not going to get fruit, but rather will get cash. Give me the cash. And we know why. And I can explain again. Neither an animal. You brought your cow to work, your chamor to work to load. You cannot decide my chamor will not get food, but rather money. Whichever way you understand, I think we got it quite clear. Whether the idea is mitzvah, even if the idea is that they get it to their own mouth and they have their own rights because it's their own body, their own achila, so what? If he is the one who is now their owner and they are now deserve to get it inside their mouth, they are not really moichel. They're not moichel, right? And if you say financial rights, they're not moichel either, right? Financial rights go up to a point. You have no right over them because lamaisa, why? Either you don't feed them. If we say financial rights, you have to say it's a bad odin who doesn't feed them. That's what you have to say. And by the ktanim that are free, you have no right to give them misery of hunger. So that's why Bektanim don't touch them. We saw that too yesterday, the following paragraph. This is good chazorah. Remember? You call the workers, guys, can you come tomorrow instead of being lazing in home all day? Come and pick my netarevai, figs, 4th year. We know what netarevai is, right? And they say, great. Hey, wait a second, says Josh to Ben. Netarevai means we won't be able to eat. They're aware of the fact that they will not be able to eat. They were pre-warned, right? They were told, netarevai, it's true, the netarevai has a way to be redeemed, But that's the whole story and the whole headache. And if the balabais clearly wrote in the text, email, and SMS, it is netar avai, guys, he obviously meant to say it's not for consumption, out of what he's mentioning. He's not giving them halacha shiur. If they came to work, they can't say, we didn't know. You did know. You knew it's netar avai. Don't touch. Netar avai is not something you're supposed to eat. However, him lo yoidian, if he just told them, I have this amazing fruit for you to pick tomorrow, and they know the halacha, but he did not, that they're supposed to eat, and he was conveniently forgetting to mention that it's netar avai. They did not agree. They came thinking what? That they will eat. He has a big headache. This guy now, which guy? The owner of the field of the netar avai, misinforming them or hiding information, and they thought, maybe made a mistake, by the way. It doesn't make a difference. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He was scatterbrained. But Lamaisa, they came to work thinking 1,000,000% they're going to get nice fruit. They're planning a nice Ben Azmanim trip of picking and eating. Halacha. That's what they thought. That's what they expected. You can't make them fail their expectation. Lefi either tzad, we said. Now the headache is on Baal Habais, the owner of the field. He'll have to take now every fruit that they pick and want to eat. He'll have to redeem it for a coin and then allow them to eat. And it's his onus and his achrayis because he's the one who forgot to mention the facts. Now, nisparsu igulov, that is also, we saw that too. How about, amazing chazara, nisparsu igulov, nispaschu chavyoisov. Nisparsu igulov, what's lifros, prusa, it was, in this case, it was scattered, it was broken. A person had an igul shel devela, he had a fig pie, all the figs were stuck together. You tell me, people, once the fig is already all stuck, nice, ready, shiny, he even put glazing on it, all very nice, and now meister shall be taken. If a poel comes to work now, will he get something from it? No, it's past the finishing line. It's already too ready. Now, those people are coming, and they were informed, you know what? Please come to re-press my igul. I had an igul, he tells them, he's open with them. I had an igul shel devela, which was nice and ready and perfect, and my 3 years old decided it's a Lego, and he dismantled the whole thing, okay? Now I wanted to regroup it, to reconstruct it. They're not getting to it, obviously not, right? Because it's been already ready for Meister, second time round, and if they know that, they're not going to eat. They were informed. Nispasku chaviosav, same thing. Let's a person's barrel was closed, opened again. Now they're coming knowing they're about to reseal the chavis, so they know that even according to the most makel opinion, that only the very, very, very end of the process of the wine, it's chai b'meiser, it's been locked, sealed. Of course it was already chai b'meiser. It was opened by my monkey, I don't know what, and now you have to reseal it. Of course you know you're not going to get, they're not going to eat because they know and they're aware that this is past the finishing line. Okay, they get a nice salary, they don't get to eat. Same thing as before. If he did not inform them, if he did not tell them that it's second time, and they mistakenly think it's the first time, they think that they are the ones who are collecting all the figs, making them into a fig pie. At that stage, what? They get to eat. You forgot to mention? Sorry. You have to take the meiser and you have to feed us, allow us to eat because we came. Amras, it's like a mekach toes, right? Good, as we said yesterday. The same thing with the barrel. Now comes a new piece of information. Shoimrei Peiros. Ooh. And that's going to be the topic today. Unfortunately, we're behind schedule. No questions till 9:26. I'm so sorry. Shoimrei Peiros are the guards. A guard is a very interesting person. A guard is a very, very important person. Because he guards, he makes sure that thieves don't come, that animals don't come, that workers work right. He's a supervisor. And let's say he's a very good supervisor. Let's say he forgot his smartphone at home, or he doesn't own one, and he doesn't even look at his tilim. He watches all day long. What's the difference between a guard and everybody else in the field? They are active and he's passive. He's doing a tremendous job, but what's he doing? He's like the lifeguard on the beach, does nothing. In other words, he watches, he looks, but physically, actively, he's sitting, leg over leg, see me, crossed armed, and he looks. So is that an active person? Oh, so that's an interesting kind of poel. What's poel? What's peula in English? Action. He's an inactive poel. Interesting. He's a poel which is not pa'il. Says the Mishnah, Shemer Peres oichlin milchas medina avalom in a toiro. Shemer Peres, they do get to eat. He's allowed to leave his butke, his guard shed every once in a while to pick a shtickle pomegranate here and there, whatever he wants. Elamai, that's only milchus Medina, because it became accepted by Jewish people. It became accepted. Medina's in the state. Medina, it's accepted in the community to allow him to eat, and therefore that's accepted minhag which Chazal endorse. It's a kind of darabanan. Avalom min Torah. Min Torah is not supposed to eat. Midin Torah, the guard doesn't eat, only with the Rabbanon. Now let's dive into the Gemara. So what did we see? You can look in your charts if you want. The bold here, yeah. You're going to see Rav and Shmuel. A guard eats with the Rabbanon. The two bold checkers, yeah. A guard eats with the Rabbanon, and according to Shmuel too, a guard eats with the Rabbanon. Let's see now the Gemara and then see the chart again. You can keep your charts open next to your Gemara. Says the Gemara, Shoimrei Peiros. These are the people we're talking about, the guards of the orchard, of the fruit, of the vineyard. Omar Rav and Shmuel have a big, huge, extreme disagreement on how to explain, and I would say, like you Americans say, where to pin the words of the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? One thing. A guard eats only with the Rabbanan, not with the Raisa. Where do you pin that into the big picture is Machlokas Rav Shmuel. Again, Omar Rav, Lo shanu l'shomer ganas upardesin, which means if the person is a guard, the Mishnah, what's Lo shanu? The Mishnah only spoke about a guard of a ganas upardesin. Ganas upardesin means orchards and gardens, whatever, that are still growing. You tell me, people, when the item, whatever, the fruit, the vegetable, is in the middle of growing, and I come to hoe, I come to plow, am I going to get to eat? No. Even if I'm active, no. Only at the end when I pick it, right? Oh, if the guard is a guard which is guarding a garden or an orchard or whichever grove where the things are still in the process of growing, midoraisa, nobody eats. Nobody gets to eat, not even the most active workers. Oh, irrigation. I got a professional guy to come and irrigate, okay? But the things are absolutely not ripe yet. Does he get to eat? Let's say he finds one ripe one. Let's say he does. He found one ripe one. Most of them are not. And also, it's not his job to deal with the ripe ones. Some ripe, some unripe. Very common, yeah? And he wants to take from the ripe, but his job is to water. No, you don't get, right? Only when you deal and you pick them. However, comes Rav and tells me, that's what the Mishnah is telling you. A guard and kolshik and others, yeah? In other words, you saw what I wrote in the checker. In Rav, a guard eats midrabanan, and so do active workers. Really, I should have written kolshik and active workers. Midrabanan, everybody eats, even if the product is unfinished and still attached to the ground. You see the first column, it says still attached to the ground. Still attached to the ground. Then says Rav, that's what the Mishnah came to say. Eats midrabanan, and everyone eats only midrabanan, mimilchas Medina. Aval, continues Rav, shomer gitas v'areimois. But when the guard deals with detached fruit, guys, tell me, if the thing is detached, but before Gmar Meiser, everybody else was active workers, midoraisa they eat. They're having a bonanza, right? That's the time to eat, true? Between picking and the final stage, that's when the big party goes on. When they schlep, when they take, when they pick, when they eat, yeah, that's when they eat. This guy, the shomer, oichlim in a Torah. Wow. In other words, the guard is like everybody else. Kasovar, Rav believes, meshamer dami. Wow. Rav believes that even though you're an inactive person, you sit there cross-legged, and sometimes you look at the newspaper or the Tilim Lavdil, and you guard, you don't do anything active, you're still called as if you're doing an active Maisa, as if you're active, and therefore your law, your halach is exactly like everybody else. So it's a general rule over here that as long as the items are attached to the ground, people eat them midorabonon mimina medina. Once they're detached and about to get before the meiser, everyone eats them midoraisa, whether it's the shomer who's sitting there in the air-conditioned nice budke, or the guy sweating his back away. They're all the same. Rav believes whether active, inactive is the same. Midorabonon, you eat while it's still attached. Midoraisa, you eat while it's already in the second stage, detached and onwards. That's Rav. Ushmuel Omar, we have to get just that today and the rest tomorrow. Shmuel Omar, just the other way around. Lo shanu ela shomer gitas v'areimois midorabonon. Look at the chart. Says Shmuel, no. I pinned the Mishnah. Look at Shmuel's bold letters. A guard eats midorabanan when it's detached, while others eat midoraisa, right? When you talk about gitos varemos, when things are already off the ground, already piled up, already about to be made wine, v'chule, and active workers, of course it's midorabanan. But the guard which is passive, that's midoraisa. And the guard eats midorabanan. Rabbanan gave him the minhag medina is okay for him to eat when it's detached. Aval shomer ganus upardesim, when it's back to the Gemara. Line starts with the word shomer. When it's shomer ganus upardesim, when you talk about it when it's ditched, when it's still attached to the ground, and oichlin lo min Torah, the lo milchas medina. Nobody gets to eat. We didn't change anything. No way. Whether you're the guard, yeah, and even if you sweat away plowing, irrigating, arranging, I don't know, making phone calls, whatever, but the stuff is not yet about to be picked. Hey, nobody touches that, not even with the Rabbanon. Kasova, Shmuel believes, Mishamel lav koisemaisedami, philosophical question. Shmuel believes that a guard is not considered active. Since you're not active, you don't get to eat. Yeah, the only time we allowed you to eat is when other people eat midoraisa, when it's detached, you the shomer, misken, your mouth is chalishing, you're not working so hard, yeah? But you also want to, well, between one page of Yated Ne'eman to the other, you want to have some grapefruit. No, Beseder will give you also Miminiga Medina Midorabanon, only when they eat Midoraisa, which is detached. When it's attached, nobody eats then. We didn't change from the beginning of the Sugya. That's Machlokas Rav Shmuel, which we will, Emir Hashem, explore more tomorrow. Tinies, we're still learning tinies to time. If Mashiach doesn't come, we are here tomorrow without the tea, and we're here tomorrow 9:30, not 9:25. Okay, and Emir Hashem, hope Mashiach comes before that, and we'll all greet him very nicely with Torah, with Bava Metzia, with Lomdas. Baruch Hashem. Thank you to everybody in our YouTube channel, Torah Anytime and Torah Anywhere. Thank you, and atzlocha rabba to everybody. Yishar Koach.